Welcome, everyone, and thank you for watching today. I'm Tim Hodkinson, the CMO at Fathom, and today we're delighted to announce the partnership between Fathom and Reask and share some background of the two companies and the rationale for the partnership and a few details that go beyond the announcement that you will have read in the last few days. I'm joined today by Dr. Andy Smith, our co-founder and Chief Operations Officer at Fathom. Andy's in Bristol, England right now. From Adelaide, Australia, Nick Hassam, co-founder and Chief Commercial Officer of Reask. And from Geneva, Switzerland, Thomas Loridan, co-founder and CEO of Reask. I'm in London, and the locations hint at the global nature of our partnership. This is going to be a pretty free-form conversation, covering some of the background to the relationship and also the roadmap for our joint research, development, and products in the coming years. I'll pass over to Andy to give a quick overview of Fathom for those that aren't familiar with the business, and then we'll run through with the Reask team and do similarly. Andy, could you give a little bit of a history of Fathom, our products and our markets, please?
So we formed out of the University of Bristol in the UK. So I moved to the University of Bristol some 10 years ago to undertake a PhD with Paul Bates on computational flood modeling. My research was focused on coupling climate models with flood models. And during the PhD, the focus started to shift towards trying to build flood models at larger scales, and principally trying to build models in really data scarce areas, but also covering really large areas like North America. And during that research, we had an indication that actually the things that we were building were useful principally for insurance companies. And so we had the idea to form a company. We did that during our PhD. So we moonlighted somewhat with PhDs and forming the company. And actually, we've discovered since then that the demand for, and indeed the need for, climate risk information and flood risk information is, of course, much broader than just the insurance market, which has been exciting to see. One of the things I would say is that we started at the university, and really the principles of our organization are still very much rooted in research. We kind of describe ourselves as a research group. We pump out, I think, probably more academic literature now than the group from which we emerged. So we really do act as a kind of as a little research group, and I think that's really important in the space that we operate in. So you can have absolute transparency around what we do. So yeah, our focus is very much still the thing that we focused on in the beginning, and that is building comprehensive, robust, useful, frankly, flood models anywhere in the world, and that remains at the core aim of our business.
Thanks, Thomas. Maybe you could give us a few words on Reask's background and history.
Yeah, sure. Actually, I think the beginning of Reask was around 5 years ago when I met Nick at an insurance conference in Taiwan. So we're both attending the conference and had quite a lot of discussion around similar ideas, around how data science, machine learning in particular, could help build hazard model, CAT models in a more efficient way. And what we agreed on is that the best use of this would be to sort of fix some of the frustration we had seen in the industry and the models in the industry. And in particular, we wanted to make sure we can build hazard models that are completely global in the coverage, but also global in the way all perils are interconnected. And so that's really how we started. That's what we've been working towards since the beginning. It's now, the company's been going for a little bit more than 4 years. And because of our expertise, we started very much with tropical cyclone as a focus. That's obviously one of the main perils for the insurance industry. It's also a very good test if you want to show your ability to have a global coverage. And Reask to date has very much focused on providing tropical cyclone risk solution for the insurance industry. We do a lot of work in what we call current climate, so your sort of baseline view of risk, but also in the future climate as seasonal forecasting. So we forecast hurricane risks for the season ahead in the US, but also everywhere else in the world. And more recently, we've started to think more deeply around climate change and what the risk shift should look like in the next decades, really. As I said, we're both of us and the rest of the team are very much anchored in the insurance industry. So this is where we started. But as Andy is saying, like we realized the range of application of our solution. We're very, very excited, and I'm sure we'll touch about it, to partner with Fathom to expand the spread of perils we can cover. And yes, I'm really, really excited to see what's coming next.
And how did the two companies first meet one another?
Nick might jump in because the first point of contact is, I guess, again, Nick in a conference talking to Andy.
Yeah, I imagine that Andy and I probably first physically met at an Oasis conference, the Oasis Loss Management Framework, which is an endeavor by the insurance industry to push, I guess, an open platform for creating risk models. We're big supporters of Oasis, and I believe that particular framework and approach really represents, an opportunity for the industry to have an open methodology and transparent approach to putting risk models out there. So it's something that we have a great deal of support for. Obviously, Fathom do as well. And I guess in the intervening years, we started having more conversations, and I believe we sort of started to notice that very much the ethos of the two organisations is very aligned. Andy mentioned before about the importance of research and academic rigour in terms of the solutions that they provide, and we very much have a similar approach to our own, the same way that we build our solutions, in that we want to make sure that we're delivering the best science to build our products and bringing them to market in a robust manner. So as we started to see, these similarities in the way in which we approach things, it became obvious that there were synergies between the type of work that we were doing, albeit that we do ostensibly work in somewhat different perils and hazards. It's over the last year or so become very clear that we have very, very aligned goals, and that's really, I guess, how the relationship formed.
It's also been clear in the market that there's a latent demand, a need for combined peril risk intelligence that covers both areas of our expertise. Maybe we could dive into a little bit the nature of the relationship from a development perspective. We've already got started in the last few weeks. What's the timeline, and what can we tell the market right now about what we're doing together, and when that's likely to come to market in terms of commercial product?
So at the highest level, the best way to characterize what we're doing is we're combining Fathom's flood modeling technology with Reask's tropical cyclone models. Now, the combination of those two things is something that we've known we need to do for a little while now, because although the perils are distinct and somewhat separate, they actually, of course, interact in real-world events. There's a good example with Hurricane Ida in the US, where there was a wind event that occurred in Louisiana, and then a flood event that occurred in the northeast of the US. But actually, it was the same event. So that correlation is incredibly important. We've known we need to try and characterize and understand tropical cyclone models. But at Fathom, we've long said within the company that our expertise is very, very specific. And if we're not the best at what we do, then we'll find the best people to work with. And that's essentially what led us to work with Reask and approach this relationship. In terms of timelines, we're working together now, but the integration of these models is not a straightforward thing. You can't just plug and play. So it will be next year that we release new products, but we're really, really excited to announce further details in the near future. But 2023 is the timeline in which we will be releasing our joint technologies.
Like what Andy said, I think we have the same view here, which is we want to bring the best solution to the market, and that is best done by partnership with the best. Like we have solid expertise and reason to believe we're experts in tropical cyclone, not necessarily the case in flood, and we're very, very proud to be partnering with the best in Fathom. I think in terms of the timeline and what I'm excited about, I think it's going to be different steps in the partnership. Some aspects of the modeling are almost plug and play. Like we have some modeling around tropical cyclone rain, and it needs to have a flooding component to this, and this will be very fast and interesting in itself. But to me, what's really interesting is what happens when we combine the two teams, the excellent pool of talent there to build jointly solution. And we've started doing this on certain payrolls, which we'll communicate in due course. But I really think this is where this collaboration will be the most exciting. Just having the two teams jointly think about innovative approach to hazard risk modeling on a global scale.
Thank you. It's also a point to mention that both companies are now also reselling each other's portfolios. We'll be, and we also have many joint customers, shared customers in the insurance sector. And this announcement and the partnership itself is of significant interest to risk professionals across the insurance and reinsurance industry, but also in capital markets, especially in the more ESG-focused areas of investment banking. And we expect some interesting use cases as well for our joint work together in engineering, particularly for coastal and near-coast assets. So you'll start to see communications from both businesses and jointly addressing a whole different range of industries and vertical use cases. One interesting alignment between the two companies is that Reask and Fathom both employ advanced machine learning methods, AI and high performance compute. Thomas, could I ask you to say a few words about the work that you do that involves ML methods?
Sure. I think there's a couple of angles there where we're a big fan of machine learning in particular. The first, very practical, is that it just makes things a lot faster. So this is the main reason we're able to provide global solution from the get-go and not have to segment by regions of the world and so on. But more interestingly, from a modeling point of view, we use AI a lot to make sure our modeling is informed by climate and by global climate signals. So the easiest way to think about this is the impact of the ENSO, so El Niño, La Niña cycles. We know it impacts most perils that we're interested in on the global scale. And there are other signals like ENSO. Some have names, some don't. And machine learning has been a very good way for us to identify those patterns and make sure they influence our modeling. So our global tropical cyclone models are fully informed by the state of the climates we specify. This is how we provide seasonal forecasting. This is how we also look at different cycles in recent history and tend to drill down into climate variability and the role of climate variability in quantifying risk. I'm convinced this will scale very well with Fathom's approach because, yes, those patterns tend to impact every perils on the global scale.
I would say that at Fathom, we have something of a love-hate relationship with the phrase machine learning. Machine learning has really helped us in some aspects of what we do. It's well suited for things like the characterization of river flows globally. So we use machine learning now to characterize the relationship between flow and catchment characteristics. So we can quantify catchments in terms of a bunch of parameters and use machine learning there, and it works really well. But machine learning is also seems to be a catchphrase for solving everyone's problems, and in fact, often used in place of physical modeling. And unfortunately, with the actual products and models that we build, there's often simply not enough training data to replace physical models. So machine learning for Fathom, again, is kind of, something I would say of a love-hate relationship. It's been amazing in some aspects of what we do, but quite specific things. Certainly not a replacement for the physical models that we build.
A great alignment between the two businesses is our commitment to publishing peer-reviewed academic research. And one of the first manifestations of the partnership will be papers in scientific papers in the academic community. Andy, could you say a little bit about that work, please?
Sure. It's again one of the things that really drove us towards this partnership was this mutual kind of desire to actually publish things in peer-reviewed journals. We will be releasing products, but alongside those products, we'll be publishing papers that give you an in-depth understanding of exactly the kinds of models that we produce and also the things that they tell us. there will be a bunch of academic literature coming out of this partnership, which I think is a really exciting and frankly a novel thing in this space. So
thanks, Nick, Thomas, Andy, for joining today, and thank you, the viewer, for listening in. Watch this space for more information about the partnership as we go to the latter part of 2022. And if there are inquiries of a commercial nature, contact details for both companies will be in this post and on the closing screen of this video. Also, if there are inquiries from the media community, our PR agencies are also listed on the next page. Thank you very much for your time, everybody.